everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking the 42 romance books that I read this year. I am going to be combining dark romance and contemporary just because I feel like if you've been wanting to dip your toes in the opposite genre or area than you typically go to, this might give you insight onto which books to go ahead and try to read. And I will be condensing a series into just one number slot. So that's not to say that I don't have a favorite book from a series. That's just that is where I would on average rank that series. At the bottom at number 42, I had Love Redesigned. Now I know that was a lot of people's favorite books or one of their favorite books. The reason I did not like it, and it's at 42, is because I felt like the characters were really shallow. It was a really surface level book and you didn't even get very much into what the FMC did, which was supposed to be like the basis of the book. And for me, that was really annoying. I wanted there to be more of that in there, and there was little to none. Now, I have read other books by Lauren Asher, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the last book that I will read by her. I just haven't really connected with any of her books, and so I just don't see a reason to continue to read them. Hollow's Row has itself at 41, and that is because book 2 lost me. I really liked book 1. I loved it so much. I don't know what it was about book 2. I just did not like it. And I barely finished it. I had a hard time finishing it. So that put them at number 41. So Prince Charming, that one is more of a me problem. And I've only recently figured out that I just don't really care for any book that takes place on or in a college setting. I just don't know what it is. I don't really care for them. So that's why I put it at number 40. But if you don't really care for that, you might like it more. At number 39, I have Little Stranger. The book started out strong. I actually really liked the beginning, and it lost me when it got to the scene with the father and then the ending. Up until those points, I was like, this is actually a decent book. I am enjoying it. It really lost me there. At number 38, I have The Bump. I liked the idea and the premise of the book. I did not like the execution. The main male characters kind of drove me nuts, I'll be honest. I did not like how it constantly felt like everything was an argument and how tense things felt all of the time. It really felt like by the end of the book, they still didn't even belong together. While it can be a realistic picture of some relationships, it honestly just overall felt toxic and kind of ridiculous for the situation that they were heading into, which was having a baby. At 37, I have Cold Sweat, which is a novella. This author writes a lot of funky novellas, and I only put it here because it was hilarious and entertaining. At spot 36, I have The Dark Verse. I did not read the most recent book despite the intrigue because I mostly only like books 1 and 2. At 35, I have a holiday book, which is Let It Snow. I really enjoyed the first and second stories. I did not like the third story pretty much at all, and for a little bit there, I was really confused on how it was going to tie in, and it does eventually all tie in together. But I don't think that the last story was nearly as good as the first two. At number 34, I have How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. This is a Grinch kind of story, and there are a lot of characters that come into play that make it feel kind of like you're watching the Grinch, but you're reading it in a spicy book. I will say that I felt like the main female character was really annoying and obnoxious at the beginning, and she didn't really care for anyone other than herself, is what it felt like. Towards the end, her character development is really great. I do really like the aspect of it being a Christmas competition, and over time she slowly starts to fall in love with her competitor and rival. And I do think that it was funny that there was a fake dating aspect as well. I do think that the ending could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion, but there were a lot of funny moments that I personally loved, and the spice was pretty good too. At 33, I have Christmas Land, which is where this town guarantees a Hallmark experience to everyone who visits. And when she gets there with her sister, the grandma winds up trying to set her up with her grandson without her really realizing it. Overall, I really liked the book. The idea was great. I do think some things could have been executed a bit better though. At 32, I have The Christmas Fix. This was a really good Christmas story, and I do like that it actually revolved around what it's supposed to revolve around, which is she goes to his town to try to help restore it after a natural disaster, and he doesn't really want her there, but he kind of got sucked into and forced into having her there because of the way she set things up. And her goal is to repair the town before Christmas so that the town of Mary can have their usual Christmas celebration, which is most of the revenue for this town for the entire year. I do think that the relationship started a little earlier on in the book than I would have expected for a kind of enemies to lovers, but I'm not going to complain too much about that, and I do think the romance was cute overall. At number 31, I have If You Give a Single Dad a Nanny. That is obviously a single dad ex-nanny romance. She is an artist and he is a billionaire. She winds up watching his daughter so that he can do some things for work. I really liked the relationship between her and his daughter, and then the daughter and her dog. I do think that the relationship between her and him felt a little bit forced at times, and I think towards the end it kind of developed into more of a natural relationship. It is an earlier book of this author's, so I think that the more that she writes of it, it will be even better, is my opinion. I have Indigo Ridge at 30. This is a sort of cowboy-ish romance, but it's a lot of mystery, and I felt like the characters were very intriguing, so that is why it's placed up a little bit higher on my list. And I do want to add here at this point that videos starting around point 33, 34 are not bad books. I actually did like them. The videos at 42, 41, and 40, I probably did not like very much. At 29, I have Scream First, which is a spicy holiday novella. It wound up at this spot because I was thoroughly entertained. At spot 28, I have The Ritual, and I know I said that I don't really care for books that take place on or in a college campus. However, this one didn't really feel as heavy on the college aspect. It is a spicy dark romance with an unhinged main male character who is a stalker of hers, and he is very, very possessive. This main male character is the definition of toucher, and while she is also very quiet and unassuming at the beginning of the book, by the end of the book, she's a very interesting and almost equally as dark character as he is. What got this book its rank on my list is because of the plot twist and the reveal of the father's role and how these girls come to be with these guys that are part of this community on the campus. At number 27, I have the Heartstopper series. I really enjoyed these. They're graphic novels. They talk a lot about mental health, the LGBTQ+ community, and I really think that each book focusing on a different point of the story was a really good way to go. These are YA. They do have like nods to sexual discussion, so if you're a parent looking at them for your child, you may want to consider that if you haven't had that conversation with them yet. I do overall really like the books, and I do plan to continue to read them. At spot 26, I had A Man's World, and I liked this one. It is a Formula One. They start fake dating in order to boost their media image, especially his, and over time, as they get closer together, a real relationship begins to develop. I love the text messages and the banter between the characters, and I love the spice. I do think that their friends and side characters all really contributed to the story very well. At 25, I have The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This is a grumpy ex-Sunshine. She's come to take over a cafe temporarily, and he is kind of there because of many different reasons, and because their paths keep crossing, they wind up falling for each other, and he's really hesitant at first, but the townspeople kind of like push him into it, and it's because of things that have happened in his past that he's hesitant. I do think overall it winds up being a cute story. It felt a little fast, but the book is short. At 24, I have Sovereign, which is a dark cowboy romance. He is very possessive. This book is incredibly spicy. He, in a way, kind of buys her from her husband, and he also maybe kind of her husband. So they wind up together. She does wind up falling for him. It's a very interesting book. And like I said, it's very spicy. Like 90% of this book was spice. At number 22, I have In the Weeds. She is an influencer who signed a really big contract, but winds up regretting it. So she wants to go on a break to kind of collect herself and take a break, you know, have some time off from content creation and the spotlight that it creates. So she goes back to a town that she's liked before, and they wind up falling for each other. At spot 21, I have the Swim and Bun bookstore, which I loved quite a bit more than the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. The spacing felt perfect for the book, and I loved the premise, which was that she's finding these notes in the books in the bookstore that she works in, and he agrees to help her follow the clues to figure out what the notes are leading to. This entire time he's been pining for her, he really likes her, and a lot of people know that he likes her, so they begin to wonder if he's the one that is leaving the notes. And overall, I thought the story was so sweet and so cute. I loved the fall vibes. They were so good and so cozy, and he was very patient and chill, and I honestly like the bookstore aspect. I like the idea of books being talked about in books. Then I have Bird of Prince at spot 20. I did not just read that as my only Sophie Lark book this year, which is why it's at 20. I had higher expectations. It is an arranged marriage, and there are mafia vibes to it. I just expected more out of it because I did also read The Sinner's Duet this year, and I just love that 10 times more. At 19, I have My Dark Desire, which is Cinderella inspired. For me, it didn't hit the same as My Dark Romeo, which is supposed to be Beauty and the Beast inspired. I still liked it. I just, at the end of the book, still felt like they were a kind of weird pairing and didn't necessarily felt like they quite yet belonged together. He is dark in a different way than the main character from My Dark Romeo is, and he is more like assassin dark, where the other guy was more moody dark. At 18, I have the Pucking Ever After books, which were just extensions of the main books. I really felt like Rachel got done dirty in these books, and that's why they're placed where they are. I think that her ending or her continuation to her story could have been a bit better, but I did like that one night, which was like the start of her and one of the main male characters. I think that you should read that before you read the first book, honestly. It gives you a little bit of insight, and it's super, super cute. Now, speaking of, at spot 17, I have Pucking Sweet, which is the third book to the series, and I liked it. I truly did. I just felt like one of the main male characters, even at the end of the book, was not for her. So this is a MFM. By the end of the book, I just felt like one of the men, his personality didn't mix well with hers, and it is an accidental pregnancy book, so I kind of feel like their personalities mixing better is important. In book 1, I felt like they mixed pretty well, and all 4 of the characters were in a happy, healthy relationship. At spot 16, I have the Magnolia Parks books. I personally preferred Daisy's books to Magnolia's books, and that may be an unpopular opinion. I'm actually not really sure, but that is because Daisy felt more down to earth and personable, and like I felt like I could connect to her more than I could to Magnolia, simply on the basis of point of views. And I also really liked Julian's point of views quite a bit, so that made Daisy's books for me, and I felt like the point of views from Daisy's books made Magnolia's story more interesting, which would probably mean that I should like Magnolia's books more, but I don't, unfortunately. I am very excited for the next book to come out, though. I will be obtaining the books in the original covers because I don't like the new covers, and I honestly don't really feel like they're very related to the story personally, but I will be obtaining them. At 15, we had books 1 and 2 in the Not So Meet Cute series. I really liked these books. The Meet Cute in book 1 was perfect, and then I liked the forced proximity idea in book 2. Together, they are very strong books, and I do still need to read book 3. I put it down because I just wasn't in the mood for what is a second chance romance, but I will be reading it soon. At spot 14, I have Lights Out, which is a stalker romance. He stalks her from social media at first, then she figures out who he is, and they develop this relationship. She gets to explore her mask kink and things like that, and then it takes a dark turn later on in the book when something happens, and then there's a second twist, which for me, the second twist felt a little more weird than the first twist. The first twist really contributed to the story, whereas the second one I felt like took away from the story, but that was my biggest peeve about it, was really the second twist. At spot 13, I have The Worst Best Man. I love this book, the plot, the characters, everything about it. It was so good. I just felt like there were some moments that I didn't love, which is why I put it where I put it. I do definitely recommend that book. I thought it was hilarious and just great. I love the main male character so much, and the overall storyline and how they handle things together. At spot 12, I have the Off Limits series. I loved the Windsor series, so I went ahead and read this series. I just didn't like it as much. I do believe that this is the first series she wrote, so you could kind of tell, but I would still read them if you like the Windsors for sure. At spot 11, I have Pen Pal, and this book surprised me. Despite the cover, this book was insanely good. I loved it. By the end of the book, my jaw was on the floor and I was saying what the F multiple times. It has a paranormal twist that you will not see coming. At spot 10, I have Crossroads, which is a childhood friends to lovers, kind of like enemies also. They met as kids because she would travel to this place with her father while he was sick, and they would spend time there together as their like bonding time. She buys the ranch and hopes to restore it and save it, and he is kind of mad about that, but over time obviously things change. At spot 9, I have the first and second book to Rebel Blue Ranch. I really liked Swift and Saddled more than I liked the first one. I think I just connected with the characters a bit more and the writing felt a bit stronger, but these are really good cowboy romances and I am so excited to read the next few books. At spot 8, I have All Downhill With You, and if you guys remember, I've already talked about how I've read other Lauren Asher books that I didn't like. Well, it was the theme park books that she wrote. This book is 20 times, 30 times better than those. I love this book. There was some disability rep, and I love the way he handled things after he found out why she didn't like him and how he kind of like stuck it to his dad and stood by her side. I love that she got to take control over the ride that caused the disability that she has and got to remodel it and make it something safer. At spot 7, I have Leather and Lark, which is the second book to the Ruinous Love trilogy. This might surprise some people, but I personally liked book 2. I connected with the character quite a bit. I loved the mental health rep, and I loved how as they grew closer together, he did things that were special to her. And I like that she was going after these men that did her wrong and that he does something for her in regards to that was really special to her. She is the serial unaliver in this book, and he does not do that, but he doesn't stop her, and she does, oddly enough, use her victims in crafting projects. At spot 6, I have The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark. I talked about this a little bit earlier. I love these so much. They're both artists, but he is an artist slash serial unaliver who is a rival with another artist slash serial unaliver because of things that happened in their past. And he starts stalking her after he gets her in his eye of sight at one of these art parties. And the other guy realizes, and now her life is at risk. And so he steps into her life and tries to keep her safe from his rival. But he does it in weird ways. He embeds himself in her life so awkwardly. And her character development from book 1 to 2 was amazing. I loved it so much. At spot 5, I have Out on a Limb, which is an accidental pregnancy book. And it was just so wholesome. When he finds out that she's pregnant, he offers to let her move in with him, and she kind of does because she doesn't really have anywhere else to go. And she, upon moving in, finds out that he has money, and he takes care of her so tremendously well. It was insane and really awesome to see in a book, especially one that doesn't have very many toxic elements. There are actually really no toxic elements, and their relationship flourishes because of how well he takes care of her and the way that she feels he will be as a parent and a partner and a co-parent in the relationship. At spot 4, we have the Windsors books. I really love The Wrong Bride the most out of this series, but overall, all of them were really compelling. They're very fast and easy to read stories. We follow the sister story for the last one, and her book is really sad. At spot 3, I have Part of Your World. This was my first Abby Jimenez book, and I just loved it so much. I like that she is the billionaire in this book, and she's trying to help make his life better when she finds out some things that are happening in his life. I love that she secretly comes back to the town and sees him often, and that she doesn't really care what anyone thinks towards the end of the book. At spot 2, I have The Love of My Afterlife. This book was hilarious, and I honestly did not see the twist that was coming, but I loved it so much. And the premise behind the book was also really interesting, and if you liked The Good Place, the TV show, you absolutely need to read this book because that is what it reminds me of, and that is one of my favorite TV shows. So it was kind of just gonna happen that this was gonna be one of my favorite reads of the year. Now for the big spot one, we have Daydream, and that is because of the representation in this book, mental health, disability, all of that. There was so much representation in this book, and I felt like the pacing was really good. And while there was much less spice than there were in the first two books, I felt like you could truly see and feel the relationship build versus them like kind of colliding together. They take it very slow, they take it day by day, and you just get to see them go from tutor to friends to the romance and figuring out what that means for them. This book was amazing and had great conversations in it. That concludes this video. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any book recommendations for me based on my ranking of these books, I would love to hear them, so please leave them in the comments.